Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you desperately need a birth certificate, but you just literally have no idea where to even start? Look, if you're stressed out about navigating all that government bureaucracy just to get your own vital records, trust me, you are definitely not alone. But don't worry, I've got you covered.
Picture this. You've been standing in line for hours, only to be turned away at the DMV while trying to get a real ID. Or maybe you are staring down a crazy looming deadline for a passport application. It is incredibly frustrating when your whole life is just put on hold because you're missing one single piece of paper, right? Well, let's fix that. Today, we're going to lay out a clear, completely de-escalated path to getting your Missouri birth certificate online quickly and securely.
So here is the roadmap for this explainer. 1. Why you need it now. 2. Knowing the basics. 3. The step-by-step process. 4. Avoiding scams and issues. 5. Exceptions and special cases. And 6. Our final review and disclaimer.
All right, Section 1, why you need it now.
A birth certificate is basically considered the single most important initial form of identification a person can hold. Certified copies are typically the absolutely only type accepted when you want to get a state or federally issued photo ID. You quite literally need it to unlock all the essential life services. We're talking getting a driver's license, getting a passport, enrolling in college, setting up utility services, or applying for Social Security benefits. It is the master key that opens almost every other door.
Moving on to Section 2, knowing the basics. Okay, first things first, we really need to demystify some confusing jargon. Missouri keeps birth certificates in two completely distinct certified formats. You've got the short form, which is also known as an abstract, and the long form, which is the original. The crucial thing to remember here is that almost everyone only needs the short form. That's your traditional-looking copy with the colored borders that satisfies basically all legal needs, like getting your driver's license or a passport. The long form, that's an exact facsimile of the historical paper record. It sometimes includes the exact time of birth or signatures from medical personnel. So honestly, unless you are doing some deep genealogy research, the short form is exactly what you want.
Next up, we have to talk about who is actually allowed to get this document. In Missouri, vital records are not open to the general public, mostly to protect identities and prevent fraud. You have to have what the state formally calls a direct intangible interest. This basically includes you, your immediate family in a direct line of descent, so up to but not including cousins, and authorized legal representatives. Basically, if you aren't on this specific list, you simply cannot request the record.
Section 3, the step-by-step process.
Getting this done online is actually highly manageable when you break it down into these 4 macro steps. Let's say you're like a hypothetical friend. Let's call her Sarah, who desperately needs her passport for a trip next month. First, Sarah verifies her eligibility. Next, she gathers her IDs. Third, she applies through the authorized portal. And finally, she pays the fees. See? Seeing it laid out like this shows just how bite-sized this whole bureaucratic task actually is.
Let's look a bit closer at Step 2, gathering your documentation. You absolutely must prove who you are. The state provides a list detailing the acceptable primary photo IDs required by the Missouri Bureau of Vital Records. Now, the good news is you only need one of these documents as long as it is current and valid. I definitely encourage you to pause the explainer right now or just take a quick screenshot so you have this list ready to go when you begin your application.
Alongside your ID, you also need to prepare your specific personal information. You're going to need the registrant's full name exactly as it appears on the certificate, the full date and place of birth, so that includes the city, county, and state, and both parents' full names. A super critical detail to note here is that you must know your mother's full maiden name. I highly recommend having all this written down before you even go online. A really common issue is getting your application rejected just because of silly typos. So double-check that your spelling matches the original record perfectly. We don't want your session to time out or get flagged.
Which brings us to Step 3, applying online. And listen, this is incredibly important. The Missouri Bureau of Vital Records doesn't actually run its own online ordering system. Instead, they contract exclusively with a third-party system called VitalCheck. VitalCheck is literally the only authorized online and phone processor for the state. But don't worry, it's highly secure, trusted by over 450 government agencies nationwide, and it routes your request directly to the state for fulfillment.
For Step 4, let's talk about money. The official state base fee for a certified copy of a Missouri birth certificate is exactly $15. Now, because you are using VitalCheck's online service for the convenience of doing it from home, they will charge an additional approved processing fee on top of that $15, plus whatever expedited shipping option you might choose. You're going to need a credit or debit card to complete this transaction online.
Oh, and pro tip, if your payment fails, just ensure your billing address matches your card perfectly because the security systems on these government portals are extremely sensitive.
Section 4. Avoiding scams and issues.
The Missouri state government is actually so concerned about scams in this space that they issued a pretty stark consumer alert. It reads, and I quote, "BVR is not responsible for any lost fees, broken promises, or stolen personal data caused by using these unapproved companies." A lot of these third-party knockoff websites do not use correct security methods, and they often misrepresent official prices. Sometimes they end up overcharging desperate customers by massive, massive margins.
So, to protect your identity and your wallet, please use a mental checklist. Always verify that the URL is exactly www.vitalcheck.com. Look for that secure HTTPS right at the beginning of the web address. Another massive red flag to watch out for is clicking those sponsored ad results on search engines. Scammers actually buy these ads all the time to redirect you to lookalike domains. And remember, a legitimate government processor is never going to ask you to pay with gift cards or money transfer apps. Just no way.
All right, Section 5. Exceptions and special cases.
What if you're helping someone in a really complex legal situation? Well, as we noted back in the eligibility section, legal representatives, like a public defender or an attorney, can totally operate on behalf of individuals. This is especially crucial for unhoused citizens or folks who might be navigating the justice system and urgently need their identity documents to secure housing or a job.
Furthermore, the state actually has some built-in fee exemptions, which is amazing. Under Section 115.427, eligible citizens who don't have a valid photo ID can get a single certified copy totally for free, specifically so they can get a non-driver license for voting purposes. Victims of domestic violence or abuse can also obtain a fee-exempt copy. And importantly, under the Missouri Adoptee Rights Act, adopted individuals can directly obtain unredacted copies of their original birth certificates. The state essentially tries to ensure that cost and circumstance aren't absolute barriers to proving your own identity.
And what if you simply don't have that primary photo ID we discussed earlier? Take a breath. Don't panic. There's a very critical workaround for this. You can actually use 2 alternate forms of identification instead. These documents just must include your name and the name of the issuing institution. So for example, if you have a recent utility bill envelope and a pay stub from work, you can use those together to prove your identity.
Now, for the genealogists out there, or family members who are managing estates, you might actually need the birth certificate of a deceased relative. The rule here is a bit strict. Immediate family members can obtain this, but you absolutely must provide an original, certified copy of the registrant's death record along with your request. A quick photocopy of the death certificate is just not going to cut it here.
Finally, Section 6, our final review and disclaimer.
Just a quick reality check before we completely wrap up. While this explainer maps out the exact process based on official source material, you know how government procedures and fees can occasionally shift. If you run into technical issues or need direct support, definitely look for the customer service contacts and online support chats available directly on the official Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services website to verify their current policies. Think of this explainer as a really powerful reference guide to make your life easier, but remember, it is not professional legal advice.
Okay, you now possess the exact step-by-step playbook to confidently request your Missouri birth certificate online. You know how to prove your eligibility, you know how to dodge the scammers, and you know how to use the state's authorized processor. So I'm going to leave you with this. Now that you know exactly how to bypass all the confusion and secure your vital records, what doors will having your official identity unlocked open for you today? Get out there, get your document, and take that next big step in your life.